All right, guys, if you're planning on living in Costa Rica and getting old in Costa Rica and maybe making this your final resting place, you got some considerations and we're going to talk about it. And the story you're about to hear is not a one-off. I'm hearing more of these types of stories, and I'm going to actually do another video about what we're about to talk about in 45 seconds. Guys, I'm Michael Allen for TravelCostaRicaNow.com. If you haven't subscribed, please do. YouTube's hard. If you want to show love, want to donate, it's kind of fun. There's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. You know, they're $5 a piece. Obviously, I like a lot of coffee, so you probably have to invest about $50 to donate. Anyway, there's a link in the description if you want to show some love. Okay, guys, we're up at the relocation retreat. So if Costa Rica is on your radar and you think you might want to live here, but you're not quite sure, this relocation retreat might be for you, man. We're having a blast. It is a jam-packed house. And it's only our second day, man. And Chris is speaking today. So if you don't recognize Chris, maybe you do, maybe you don't. He is like a construction consultant. I don't know if you guys know anything about Costa Rica, but they can kind of maybe do some shortcuts on house building sometimes. Yeah. And it can cause a lot of problems and maybe a lot of money down the road that you weren't aware of. So Chris helps people make sure they're constructing or they buy the right house or whatever. Inspection.
Pre-purchase inspections, and then I guide people through the construction process, starting all the way back to design. And,
Right. And it's a serious service down here because, again, I know if you live somewhere else, that's not a big deal. Well, it is here. So anyway, we're not talking about that today, but I've already talked to Chris about this. Everything he does, I'm going to put a link in the description to that video where we're actually talking about what he does. And if you want to get a hold of him, we can all make that happen. But for this one, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about construction, Chris. So we're going to be out of your wheelhouse. Now here's what's going on. So again, if you're going to be thinking about living in Costa Rica, you got some considerations seriously to think about because you are going to get old here. I know you don't think you're going to get old.
Right.
And you got to think about, maybe the last moments of your life. And this story is going to be indicative of why you might. What are we trying to do? We're trying to maybe have people think and maybe
just be prepared. Planning.
Be prepared. And we were talking last night about this because I have a story too, and I was going to make a separate video about growing old, this kind of thing. But let's go. So we were talking last night, and Chris told this story to the group we were hanging out with, and I was like, man, we got to tell people about this. So, Chris, take it away.
So it is a developing situation, but essentially, I have a neighbor. He is an 89-year-old gringo, coolest dude in the world. He's a musician, and he is here on his own. He has some Tico friends who are our neighbors who take care of him well, and I'm also his neighbor. I live literally 60-second walk from his house. So since I bought my house over the past year, I've developed a relationship with it. We'll call him Jimmy, just for the sake of it.
Okay, now how long has he been living here?
Oh, man, I think about 30 years.
Oh, so
20 to 30 years. It's a long time, significant amount of time.
Yes, that is.
And I try to visit Jimmy once to every other week, one to 2 weeks, and have a beer with him. He likes having German beer. So developed a relationship with Jimmy, and during these visits, I'm realizing, Jimmy does not get around well on his own at all. And recently he had an accident. You ask him, he says he's slid out of his bed and ended up on the floor, and which I think he probably fell out of his bed, and he ended up in the hospital, in the public hospital. There was an ambulance in front of his house. One of my neighbors got me and said, "Get down there. There's an ambulance in front of Jimmy's place." Mm-hmm. So, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, keep going. Yeah. So he
So
ends up in the hospital. Now, was he already? You saying he didn't really move around that much? Was it like he had a bad hip, or is just
no,
he's
he's
89?
old.
Yeah.
He's old, and he moved around. It's just really slow. One day, I took Jimmy to the grocery store to or no, I took him out to town to help him pay his bills. I think he wanted me to have a set of keys to his house, so he wanted to get a copy of his keys made. And while we're out, we're paying his electric bill, his water bill, and just doing yada yada. That was a very tough experience for me. As far as physically, I had my 2-year-old son with me, my toddler, and I'm trying to help an elderly man in and out of a car. I didn't expect it. I wasn't used to that. So again, he needs help getting around. He doesn't have any family here. Um, Jimmy ended up in the hospital, and he was released a few days later
With like, did he break something?
With a catheter. Well, I don't know. He's just in severe back pain. My Spanish is very poor, so I'm piecing things together from some of his Chico friends. Jimmy's Spanish isn't that great, and so I don't know. And then Jimmy, he just is. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to let on the seriousness of the situation, or maybe he's in denial.
One of those stoic people, like, oh, everything's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. And
I'm sorry. Let me just a quick question. So you said like 2 Chico friends. Now, are they there every day taking care of him, or are they just checking in on him? Do they have to make his food? Do they have to help him go to the bathroom? You know what I mean? Like
after his first accident, or after he came back from the hospital the first time, yes, they're there every day. And I only know these guys through Jimmy too, and our communication isn't great between me and them. They seem like good enough guys, but yeah, they're there. He has a catheter now, so they're there draining his catheter. They're giving him food, and I'm stopping by more regularly now just to make sure he's fed, he's clean. I'm not doing the stuff. I'm just kind of,
man, I hate to ask this because it sounds so. No, it's like these people are trying to take care of this older guy. Does it feel like it's coming from a good place, or it's like, hey, we need to go to the ATM, Jimmy, because we've been helping you for a week and we think you owe us some money?
So,
I gotta ask.
No, that I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, especially with the cultural barrier and the language barrier. So that's something on my mind. That's one of the reasons I show up so often, and also people's time are important. Like if these guys are here taking care of Jimmy, they're probably not out making money either. So I get, like, if they're being compensated, they probably should be compensated. But in order for someone to have care, like typically there needs to be an exchange of money for time, and
right.
So I understand that. But also I'm not directly seeing evidence of what is any financial transactions or misappropriated funds from Jimmy's account.
Now, what's his? I mean, I know you don't really know, but just by hanging out with him for as long as you have, does he have like a adequate, money coming in, like from Social Security, or does he seem to be able to? That's not really a problem. He's not rich, but he's.
No.
Have you ever?
I think he has enough to maintain his modest lifestyle. The problem he has is getting out. He's very old school. The problem is he has is getting out to pay his bills, right? So sometimes his electricity gets shut off. He's almost a 90-year-old man who gets his electricity and water shut off. One time I passed Jimmy's house in the morning and he was sitting outside. I'm like, oh man, Jimmy's up early. I'm like, Jimmy, what the hell are you doing, man? He's like, I've been locked outside all night. I'm like, Jesus. He just got back. He just recorded an album. And he just got back from California. The taxi dropped him off, and he spent the entire night on his porch. And, he's not mobile enough to bend over and get down and pull a jacket out of his.
But he's rock star enough to go to California and do an album. That's pretty.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that puts
he was driven to do the album.
That puts a little interesting side to the story.
So Jimmy's back. He's at his home. He has a catheter. He's bedridden. whenever he moves his neck or his back or even his arms, he's in great pain. So we're spoon feeding him. And a couple weeks later, Jimmy lands back in the hospital, the public hospital. And it happened at a time where he was been in the hospital for a week before I realized where he was. And
Which hospital do you know?
man, San Juan de Dios in San Jose. I'm probably butchering that, but
it's all right. I probably couldn't do any better. So there's no family.
No family.
Now, if these two people or you weren't checking on him, would he be in trouble?
Yeah, how he tells
you know what I mean?
me,
like he couldn't.
He says he was on the floor for a couple hours. Like he could have been on the floor for a day. I don't know. If no one was checking on him, he could have died on the floor. There's no movement. He's not moving himself, right? So if someone wasn't checking on him, he could still be on that floor. Why not? You know.
Well, kind of, but just like he was out on the porch, he doesn't know what to do. Is he confused in any way way?
His mind's pretty solid. A little slow going in the morning, but he's solid. It's not that he doesn't know what to do. It's he can't do it. He physically can't do it.
I'm sorry, that's not funny, but
no, okay. I understand. So anyway, now he's back in the public hospital again. I figure out where he is. It's a pain in the butt to get in there too, especially if you're not family. So, you know.
Did you have to stealth your way into his room?
I strategically got into his, to visit him.
You know the dumb, I mean, just as a hack, the dumb gringo can work. Like where you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I'm already a pretty dumb gringo, but I laid it on a little bit extra thick because I needed to. I needed to see Jimmy. He doesn't have any other gringos looking out for him, and his Spanish is not perfect. So I don't know what they're doing in him in this hospital, but I just have to see. So I get in there, I look at him. He's in a room, like any public hospital. They're keeping him alive, and that's what they're doing. They're keeping him alive. They're keeping him fed. The food actually looks good. I don't know how much of it he can actually eat, but it looks good. He's in a room with like 6 to 8 other people, and he's, his mental state is very fragile and is failing because he is bedridden in a country where he doesn't speak the language. And no one's visiting him at this point. Me and I think one other of his Pico friends is visiting him, but he can't have a good conversation.
So is he's in hospital now?
So I think that I said this is developing. I'm hoping by the time I get home that he is at home at his home right now, riding out the rest of it in his home where he wants to be. But when he's in the hospital, I came to visit him over the course of a week. I take pictures with Jimmy too, so I can kind of go back and see like how does he look when he first got here compared to now. And the last time I visited him, you could see it in his face, you could see it in his arms. It took me a while to realize this, but he was actually tied to the bed, and he had a feeding tube, and he had a catheter.
Tied to the bed?
Tied to the bed, and now he can't talk. He doesn't have the energy to talk. And he's trying to tell me something, and it took me a while to realize this, but he's trying to tell me he's tied to the bed. Now, I don't think he's getting mistreated there. He's tied to the bed so he doesn't pull out his catheter, pull out his feeding tube, which I can see Jimmy trying to do.
Work in a hospital, they will do that.
Yeah. I don't think he's being mistreated, but he's also not getting the emotional or mental care that he should. And I understand. I'm not blaming the hospital. I think they're doing good what they're supposed to do, keeping him alive. But do
you know if he's a resident?
He is. He's a permanent resident here.
Okay.
For a long time.
So he pays into the CAHA.
He pays in the CAHA, but
CAHA is a socialized medicine here. So if he's a resident, he pays into the CAHA, and as long as he keeps that current. Well, even if he doesn't keep it current, in an emergency situation, they're going to do. He
didn't keep it current. So you're right. He was behind on his payments. So I found out, Michael mentioned I gringoed my way in there, and I did, and I gringoed my way into the social service part of the hospital, and they started answering questions because, like, you know, who else is looking out for this dude from his home country. So I found out he's behind on his payments, and yeah. I also consulted with another guy who's a speaker here, Johnny. He's a healthcare guy. He gave me some great.
You guys know Johnny? He's our medical dental guy and all around educated guy in the health system here. So navigating the health system, we'll say.
Consulted with Johnny. I'm like, dude, this is weighing on me. What do you do in this situation? And I feel bad for him. Jimmy's a Korean War vet, by the way, so he's already been through hell once. He don't need to go through hell again, especially if these are the last of his days. And he's like, go to the embassy, dude. I'm like, that makes sense. Yeah, he's like, go to the embassy. This is how you get in there. This is who you talk to. This is what you request. And I did all that to get a form that, first off, they couldn't give me any information on Jimmy because he hasn't filled out this form saying that the embassy can release information on him. So I can't, they won't tell me his next of kin. If I get this document signed by Jimmy, then I can get that information and they can contact him and possibly medevac him back to the United States where he could go to a Medicare facility because I'm sure he has he's a vet. Oh, or a VA.
Veteran,
yeah. So I think we can get him better if this is into life care. I think we can get him better into life care in the States. But now Jimmy's at the point where he can't.
They might not be able
he can't tell me what he wants.
We might be able to move him anyway.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing the issues here? So I've also run into this, and I've seen it a couple times. If obviously you got to do some pre-planning and preparation, and not leave it on somebody. You need whether it's not an executor.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you
First
have
of kin or
you got to have somebody that's going to be around if you fall apart. That can make decisions for you that you've already pre-talked about.
Exactly.
You got to get like that simple form at the embassy. These little things can turn into big things if they're not done. And it's like you're trying to help. You don't know what to do. You're in another country. You're fairly new to the country. I mean, you're great and you're what you do with construction, but that doesn't mean you're good at navigating. No. Me and you doing Spanish in the hospital.
No, I'm not a healthcare guy.
Right. Right. So, I don't know. My story is probably even more sad because mine there's dementia involved, and there is stealing of money, money, and a lot of it, and it's sad to watch, and it's hard to there are places here and that can help you if you can get to the right people.
Okay,
but again, it comes down to who are you. Maybe you're ripping him off, so they're not going to give him information,
and there's laws too that protect their privacy.
Right. And so again, if you were planning on coming to Costa Rica, you plan on living your life here, you're going to die, man. You're going to die, and I actually don't really think it's fair to leave it to other people.
No.
Now but I know that, he's older. He's kind of like my mom is 88, and they're kind of stoic, and everything is good until it's not. Now everybody's scrambling. Now, okay, we should have if my mom falls down, she's probably going to break her hip or something. We got to talk about these things. Yeah. What are we doing? Who's going to get up there? What's going to go on? Are we going to keep you in this condo that has stairs like this?
Who do you call?
Yeah, so
who do I call?
Well, or do we get assisted living? Do we have something prearranged? What about to think if you leave it into the hands of any government, you're probably already going in the wrong direction.
Probably, yeah.
So I just wish more people would not prepare for this. Because it's actually waking me up now too. Because I've kind of try to act like I'm not as old as I am, and this could be me in the year. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. So do I leave it?
And it's not even an old age thing, just an old age thing. Like I have a kid, I have a 2-year-old. What if something? My wife and I often travel in a car together. What if something happens to us? Who is there to take care of our son until he can get to the proper place in the States? And then how do we get him out of the country, right? Or how does that person get out of the country? Because he's a citizen here in Costa Rica. So whoever takes him out of the country has to have special permission for him to leave the country.
So it's not
have all that in place.
You're right. It's not even getting old. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, the old age thing, happens, and I don't know. You got to prepare. I mean, this is a sad story, and I'm telling you what, I already know what's going to happen. If it doesn't get straightened around, he will die alone in a hospital with nobody around him. Really, and he's just going to fade away. And
I am getting to know his friends, and the more I get to know them, the more they seem like their heart's in the right place. Which is
the Tico guys or the other people?
The Ticos,
just the Frenzios.
Yeah, those folks, and their hearts seem to be in the right place, and it sounds like they're prepared to make sure that he has 24/7 care at his house. Now, my understanding is these guys have known them for 15 plus years, so that's also a good sign. But my big fear was, that these folks may be doing it for the money, the house, what's in the house, and if that's the case, they might not have Jimmy's best interests in mind. Now that feeling has subsided a little bit, but I'm still keeping my eyes open and my head on the swivel.
Sometimes it's hard not to take advantage of a situation that's easy to take advantage of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, guys, I just want to make this video. We'll be talking to Chris at some other time anyway, and we'll catch up on what actually happens. But anyway, I just wanted to make the video. I'm going to make another one separate from this because it is a thing, and preparation.
Yeah.
So you may maybe get a hold of someone like Johnny to maybe help you navigate what you need to do. How
make a will.
Well, even the residency thing. So once you get your residency, yes, you're paying into the CAHA, but what you actually should do, it doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter anything. So you get residency, you get your CAHA, and the first thing you need to do is go find the care center you need to go sign up, say something's wrong, so they can get
establish a baseline.
Yes, establish that baseline. Record. Because if you don't, it's going to have to be done when you get in the car crash. It's going to have to be, and now things are going to be scrambled.
This is Johnny advice.
Yeah.
Like straight from Johnny, right?
No, I advised him on this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's a total. It's good advice. So anyway, I just want to tell a story, Chris. Thanks a lot, man, for kind of sharing, because I know we talked about this last night. It kind of, it saddens people. It's like, dang, because I've been here a long time, dude. I've seen a lot of people die in not very good situations and nobody around them. So.
Well, and we talked about whether it's shared or not, and you point out the greater good, So yeah, I agree with you.
If one person goes, "Hey, honey, we need to get our shit in order," that's good.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm Michael Allen from TravelCostaRicaNow.com. My videos are going to pop up. Thinking about living or moving anywhere, always do your homework and research. And if it's Costa Rica, I'm going to say my videos. All right, man. Ciao. Peace.